Hi, I'm Yitz Greenberg, and I'm proud and privileged to join with the family and many well wishes to celebrate Aaron Feuerstein's 90th birthday. He's a man who befriended me for more than 60 years and whom I've admired very much all those years. So it's a privilege to share some thoughts and some reflections on that long period. The first scene that comes to mind when I think of Aaron is when 1954, when I became the rabbi of the Young Israel of Brookline. He was young, handsome, up-and-coming businessman. The family, of course, was probably the leading Orthodox business and communal family. And of course, they were the key builders and leaders of the Young Israel of Brookline. And this was my first position as a rabbi, and he, of course, along with the congregation, the family, gave great warm reception and continuous response and feedback in a very positive way to my sermons and activity and support, and it meant a lot to a beginning rabbi. I would add only that even at that time I was beginning to think sort of fresh, what fresh thinking or fresh approaches might strengthen orthodoxy, and I have to say that I would give some of these drasha sermons, and the family was always supportive, but I'd have to say that Sam Feuerstein and Aaron's older brother Mo, of course Aaron was taking over the business more and more to enable Mo to exercise his communal and philanthropic family and national leadership. But I said Sam and Mo were always a little anxious about it, and more than once we had a conversation. Mo would say, we have to be careful, how it'll be understood, and the slippery slope. But Aaron really got it, and he continuously radiated that understanding. So you're onto something, go for it, which meant a lot. 7 years later is the second scene. I was married to Blue Greenberg. We moved to New York finally. I became a professor at Yeshiva University. But before we went, we fell into Gloucester, Massachusetts, on the seashore. We rented a home just on the ocean, which we loved, and Blue particularly loved because she grew up in Seattle on Lake Washington and loved the water. And so much so that in 1961, the summer, our first child, Moshe, was due to be born in the summer. And rather than miss the opportunity, she decided she would switch doctors and hospitals in the last month in order to be able to give birth and spend the summer in Gloucester, which we did. He was born on a Sunday in July, and of course we were all alone up there. We were a young couple, probably a little over our heads in general, but there was no kosher caterer, there was no resources really available, and we had to make a bris a week later. What do you do? Well, the answer, of course, is that we just went ahead. Our family came up from New York. My mother-in-law and her sister particularly brought food and did a lot of preparation work. My parents, everybody came up. We invited our friends from Brookline, including, of course, Aaron and America. They showed up early, he's always prompt, and lo and behold, the house wasn't really quite ready for the bris or for the people, which they spotted immediately, and Aaron said, let me help out here. And I still remember Aaron not only cleaning up, but I think washing some dishes. And America, beautiful aristocratic America, ended up making the beds, or at least straightening it out. And that was just a small expression of their friendship, their modesty, their helpfulness in every way. The third scene, of course, is one of the most unforgettable ones in the 60s. I was in New York teaching and doing a lot of things, and there was the great fire in Malden Mills that burned down Malden Mills. And then, instead of taking the money and running or moving the factory to the lower cheap cost labor down south, came the news that Aaron had decided to rebuild there. Not only to rebuild, but for the sake of the menschlichkeit, for the sake of the ethics and taking care of the workers, that in fact they were paid while they were waiting for the rebuilding. It just exploded all over the media, and I can't tell you how meaningful and how proud I felt as an Orthodox Jew. Suddenly this amazing coverage that Orthodoxy was not just excellence in ritual, but really ethics, and not only what's legally obligation, but the concern for humans and their dignity. It became an extraordinary story about the really a Kiddush Hashem, and of course the invitation to attend the State of the Union, and that moment when it was recognized by the whole nation. You know, the Gemara says that Chil Hashem is an unforgivable sin because the evil and the weakening of trust in people continues to erode for years. It never ends. Well, then Kiddush Hashem, I think, is the other way. It's the unbounded mitzvah that goes on and is a Kiddush Hashem that will never be forgotten. The last scene that I would refer to is not a one-moment scene. It's that Aaron continued to be an important communal leader that involved Torah Sarav Institute and many other things. We stayed friendship. And it's no secret that from the 70s on, Orthodoxy, modern Orthodoxy, turned to the right, became, I felt, becoming more Haredi, and my views, and I felt it should be moving toward Klal Yisrael, became considerably less accepted, and the challenge. And throughout that period, really sometimes friends and supporters of the past sort of backed away. And Aaron, it was just that continuous radiation of support, understanding, even when he didn't agree, respect and concern, and that sustaining friendship, the judgment of a person who I deeply respected, that this was not a fool's errand or a wrong direction, but a well worth exploring, was of inestimable value. And both the friendship and the confirmation and the sense of giving me the courage to explore further is a debt I'll never be able to repay. So I'll conclude with one simple comment. The Torah goes out of its way to mention two particular mitzvot that earn you arichas yomim, herachta yomim. One, of course, is kabedas avicha v'simecha, l'man yarichun yamecha. The Torah promises, and Aaron was a great model of respect for family, respect for his parents, upholding that value of the older generation. He was a great example of that. And secondly, of course, the Torah says for honest weights and measures, for ethics in business, for showing a model of how to live a Torah value system in a commercial enterprise. There too, the Torah says the reward is l'man yarichun yamecha. So this 90 years is well earned by Aaron. Well earned in so many ways. Well earned and well spent because he has been a major contributor to the Jewish community, to Torah, to Orthodoxy, and to all the best values that we all want to. So, till 120, Aaron, may you be in good health and enjoy the just rewards of a life well